Members here, but earlier today in a full committee we had the opportunity to discuss our military's future with Secretary Carter and Admiral Winfield. Our conversation was quite startling, I guess, to say the least, and I'm shocked at the dismantling and devastation that's being proposed by the administration and the negative consequences associated with sequestration, as both of you just pointed out. For instance, a fleet of only 8 aircraft carriers will significantly and irreparably harm our global strategic posture. Now, at this hearing, we'll likely have revealed that our existing fleet's being worn out by this period of sustained surge as well. And Admiral Rowden, it's my understanding that a severe underfunding has occurred in the ship maintenance accounts over the last 10 years. Fleet representatives indicated to us on a recent trip to San Diego that this underfunding has caused an almost $3 billion shortfall in this account. When you couple this underfunding with the high operational tempo of the fleet, we now have a force that's highly motivated but are driving ships and equipment that's not properly modernized or maintained to meet their missions. My fear is that with the continued impact on sequestration and the continued reliance on OCO funding, our ability to adequately support the fleet in terms of size and capacity might be in jeopardy. Now, considering the long-term underfunding of the ship maintenance accounts and the debilitating impact associated with sequestration, can you give us your opinion as to how this will impact the size and capacity of our surface forces, and what would be the long-term impact of these decisions on the 30-year shipbuilding plan?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for the question. One of the things that we've worked very hard on over the past 3 years is to understand exactly where the current maintenance conditions of the surface fleet is. And I'm very proud of the fact that we have worked very hard to understand exactly where we are. And as you pointed out, it's about $3 billion of what we call reset in order to be able to bring the material.
3 million or 3 billion?
Billion, sir. In order to bring our, I'm sorry, about $2 billion. We estimate approximately $346 million in FY14 and about $2 billion in the future in order to reset our force. And that occurs from because we have had to defer maintenance because of high operational tempo, because we have had a high operational tempo, and because we have had to work, we have had a poor definition of the engineered requirements or what was required to maintain our ships. We now have a good engineered requirement, and I'm confident that the money that we say we need to reset the force is what it is we need. The trick will be to continue to keep that on track. One of the problems that I foresee is if for whatever reason we delay the execution of that maintenance, as time goes on, the price to accomplish that maintenance increases in a greater than linear fashion. And so we really have to get after that reset maintenance on our ships so that we can preserve those ships to their expected service life and maintain the fleet. If we don't get after that, then we may have to look at, because of the increasing costs, having to decommission ships early, and that will reduce our fleet as we move ahead.
And just two more quick questions, and I'm asking you to kind of reach back with all of your professional judgment and instincts and kind of give us a little forecast with a crystal ball. And I know it's tough, but it's what we're trying to sell to other members of Congress. But as you look at all of these figures and you see where sequestration is, if we don't change it and we're locked into where it is, where do you think it's going to take us in our overall number of ships that we're going to end up with, if you could, either one of you address that? But then the second thing is this. In 2007, the Navy was able to meet about 90% of our combatant commanders' requirements. The last 2 years, we're meeting about 51% of those. If we stay on course with sequestration the way it is and the cuts that have been made, what's your best guess of where we will be in terms of percentages of meeting those requirements, especially if we look at reducing our carrier groups the way we heard today in our testimony?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. There is no doubt, I think, that given where we are proposing to go with sequestration, that it will reduce the number of ships that we have in the Navy. And I think probably by 2020, we're looking at about 257 ships. Certainly, we have to be able to maintain those ships. Certainly, the price tag to maintain those ships goes up as we defer that maintenance. And so I think that in order to be able to deploy the ready ships, and we are deploying ready ships, but I think the surge capacity that we have to be able to respond to any contingency is definitely not where it needs to be now, and it could go down further as we move forward. Tim?
And I know it's tough, but give me your best guess of percentage of COCOM requirements we could meet. If we only met 51, I think, to be exact, last 2 years, what's your best guess if we stay on this curve line dropping the way it is?
Yes, sir. That's a difficult question to answer, and I'd have to answer it in with two views. One is the short term, and one is the long term. So, looking ahead to fiscal year 14, we are going to prioritize the COCOM requirements. The high priority deployments are the ones that we will keep it in the highest priority, but we expect to have to cancel some lower priority deployments. And if I had to give you a figure, it would be somewhere around the 90% range that we would satisfy what we call the Global Force Management Plan. So we're pretty confident we'll get the highest priority deployments. And by that I mean the couple of carriers that we'll have out there, they won't meet what we've traditionally done when you compare to historical norms, but we will be able to provide what we have out there today. Now, what Admiral Rowden said is very pertinent in that sequestration is going to affect the surge capacity that we have in our non-deployed forces. And so, as the CNO has said recently, that'll be brought down to about one carrier strike group and one amphibious ready group that's available for surge, and that's about it. Long term, however, as the force structure would start to come down, I would expect that we're not going to be able to meet as many of these requirements with fewer carriers and for fewer surface ships. But a percentage would be difficult for me to figure at this point.
Well, thank you both. I'd like to now recognize the distinguished chairman of the Readiness Subcommittee, Mr. Whitman from Virginia.
Thank you, Chairman Forbes. Admiral Rowden, Admiral Matthews, thank you so much.